In this video, I'm going to take a look again at the question of loft or attic conversions. I've made a video before and I'll link up here someplace towards the end of this video to that video. But in this particular video, I want to look at attic conversions, loft conversions, the problems that arise in a little bit more detail. And there is loft conversion guidelines issued by or published by the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, and the most recent edition of those loft conversion guidelines can be found on the relevant website of gov.ie. I'm going to take a look at these loft conversion guidelines, and I'm going to just flag up some of the more important points that you need to consider if you're thinking about carrying out a loft conversion, or if you're thinking about buying a property that has a loft conversion carried out already. The first thing you need to understand is that if the loft or attic in a residential property is converted to living space, then you will need planning permission. But the further issue of building regulations, and particularly fire safety regulations, is going to be very, very important. This document from the department, as I say, loft conversion guidelines, refers to the legal requirement placed on an owner or a builder or designer to ensure that the finished works in a loft conversion must comply with the building regulations. And that's the Building Control Act 1990 to 2020. The regulations include fire safety, and converting an attic or a loft in an existing dwelling house does have significant fire safety implications. Obviously, you need, before you carry out any work at all, to get professional advice from an architect or an engineer. You will need some sort of a building professional to design the attic or loft conversion, and to ensure a competent contractor, and that the supervision of the conversion work and the certification of the completed conversion as being in compliance with applicable planning and building regulations. So you're going to have great difficulty selling your property if this is not the case. The most important building regulations in relation to a loft or attic conversion are probably the requirements around the fire safety. So the whole fire safety regulations, the thrust of them is to ensure that there are escape provisions built into any roof space of a dwelling house that's converted into living accommodation. So additional story height increases the difficulty of escape should a fire occur, and provisions required under the building regulations are increased accordingly. So fire safety regulations are absolutely essential. All habitable rooms in the new story should be provided with a window or roof light that is suitable for escape or rescue, and guidance then is given on the dimensions for the size and position of such a roof escape. Where the attic is converted in an existing two-storey dwelling, the provisions relating to a three-storey dwelling should be adhered to. So the existing stairs then and the new stairs should be enclosed in 30-minute fire-resisting wall construction. The doors to habitable rooms should be fire-resisting doors of not less than 20 minutes. Information on the fire doors in dwelling houses can be found in the regulations. Existing stud partitions must ensure that they satisfy the 30-minute. I want to give a shout out in this video to a chap who contacted me there. He's a subscriber on my YouTube channel, but he contacted me on LinkedIn. His name is Alan Lawler. He is a building control inspector at South Dublin County Council. He suggested that I cover this issue, and there's a number of other issues as well which he has suggested I cover, which I will be covering, to do with building control building regulations and so on, and I think you'll find those videos useful as well. But just want to give him a shout out, because I do get suggestions from time to time about videos to make for the channel, etc, etc. Many times the visuals or the videos that are being requested to make are so specific and so particular that they're clearly just of limited interest to a wider audience. But these topics, this topic, building control, building regulations, attic conversions, loft conversions, is clearly of wider sort of import or importance. And as I say, there's a couple of other things that I'll be dealing with as well, including building regulations and implications of the new building control management system. But anyway, I want to just give a shout out to Alan Lawler. He's a building control inspector at South Dublin County Council, and he made the suggestions to me on LinkedIn. As I was saying there before I got cut off, my battery went there, so I'm finishing this video the following day, and those eagle-eyed viewers amongst my YouTube subscribers will notice I have a different tie today. So I was just saying though, existing stud partitions will, with 12.5mm standard plasterboard, will satisfy the 30-minute fire-resisting construction requirement. In other words, fire being stopped, etc, etc, and any glazing should be fixed shut and be fire-resisting. Bottom line is, the fire regulations when you come into an attic or loft conversion cannot be ignored and will cause you problems in selling your house if you don't have the certificate of compliance with building regulations in respect of the work. And what I've seen is, I've seen people rushing ahead doing the loft conversion or attic conversion without any great thought about building regulations and so on. They simply had such a need and requirement for extra space, growing family and so on, but you wouldn't want to make that mistake. Also in this document to do with loft conversions, published as I say by the government, by the Department of Environment, Heritage and whatever they're called, there is protection to structural elements guidance. So the building regulations impose requirements for fire resisting floor construction to restrict the spread of fire between stories and to protect against premature collapse in the event of a fire. And special provisions will apply to loft or attic conversions where not more than 2 additional habitable rooms are provided and the additional floor area is less than 50 metres squared. To ensure that the new floor achieves the required fire resistance, the flooring on top of the existing joists should extend to the external walls irrespective of the extent of the habitable area, and this is obviously to prevent fire spread in the event of a fire. Where a dwelling house is semi-detached or is part of a terrace of houses, it's essential to ensure that the party wall between adjoining houses continues to the roof level and the roof junction is adequately fire stopped. In other words, that fire cannot spread from one roof area into an adjoining roof of an adjoining property. So, converting existing roof space of 2-storey house into habitable accommodation. There is guidance there if your conversion doesn't involve raising the roof line above the existing ridge, is 50 square metres or less and has no more than 2 habitable rooms, then you may use the following fire safety provisions, and it goes on to give you the provisions in this document. It's very, very useful, and I'll flag up again at the end of this video where you can get it. You can get it on the gov.ie website, the Department of, I think, Environment, Heritage and something else. So the question of glazing, the question of doors, the question of the escape provisions from a roof in the attic and the floor area, the stairs then going to the attic, etc. These are all vital components of any conversion, and in order to comply with the building regulations they must adhere to certain specifications and so on. And it is a fact that some properties will have a roof construction that is suitable for conversion, but some won't. Some won't. And another question you need to be concerned about is the question of the structural integrity of the roof. In other words, you may cut out certain joists or certain timbers in order to accommodate your attic conversion, but you may well be, if you don't do it with the guidance of an engineer or architect, you may well be impinging upon the structural integrity of the roof. So that's something that you need to be careful about. When the roof space, then there's further regulations in relation to fire detection and alarm systems. and a fire detection and alarm system must be provided when the roof space of an existing dwelling house is converted to create an additional storey. And there is a legal requirement then also in relation to the electrical work that must be carried out, obviously carried out by a registered electrician. The document on the department website, and I'll make reference to it again, deals with the importance of properly dealing with fire safety issues in attic or loft conversions. But the building regulations, remember, deal with a number of things. For example, structure, materials and workmanship, sound, ventilation, conservation of fuel and energy, and so on. So there's further guidance in relation to houses of architectural historic importance. Now, just to be absolutely clear about this, and it's got document is called Loft Conversion Guidelines. It's produced by the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, and if you go to that website you'll be able to access it yourself. But the takeaway is loft conversions, attic conversions are not something that should be taken lightly. They will need the professional advice of an architect or an engineer, and the work that's carried out will need to be certified. You need a certificate of compliance with building regulations from an architect or an engineer as to the work that was carried out, and you will almost certainly need planning permission as well if you're looking at habitable space, habitable rooms and a bathroom perhaps in the attic conversion, as opposed to just mere storage space. I hope you find this video useful. I'm going to put another video up here about attic conversions, loft conversions. I made one before. I'll stick it up here. You can have a look at that as well. I'd recommend it. And I will actually put a link, hopefully I'll remember, I'll put a link in the description box on my YouTube channel, a link directly to this document. Have a look at it. It is useful.